So check this out. Why relationships fail right from the get-go. All right. So when we meet a person, we put our best foot forward. We always want them to know the best side of ourselves. We obscure the truth of the things that are hidden in our closet, and we want them to see us in the best light. Naturally, right? I mean, the mating dance, although ritualistic, is to lure in someone that you are attracted to or to attract them to yourself, right? And so we spend time opening doors, pulling out chairs, and all those things, those gentlemen or gentlewoman things that we do to put our best foot forward. And then, we go through the whole courtship over a few weeks or a month or whatever, and we become comfortable with each other, and we allow some of those skeletons to come out of the closet. And the other person starts to notice them and starts to make judgments, and a lot of times we excuse them away. Okay, well that's that. We'll deal with that as it comes, and we ultimately make decisions concerning them. And then after much time in the relationship, we start to lay down ultimatums relating to those things that become visible that we didn't see in the beginning. And it either makes or breaks the relationship. And we all have those, both sides, although we put our best foot forward. We paint ourselves in the best light. We all have those. And you either forgive them and you move on, or you decide that those are things that will become a thorn in the flesh and that are not able to be dealt with. Now, ultimately, a relationship must have trust. Trust is the foundation of every relationship. It is the single pillar that holds up everything that is to come in the future. And without trust, the relationship, if the trust pillar becomes fractured, then everything that is built upon that pillar is built on shaky ground. Now, in the occasion of an application for employment, what is time tested is the interview process, the orientation, and the application process. And in those processes, there is the consideration of the past, the present, and the future. The past is usually communicated via the application. I want to know your 5-year history, whether it's involving your residence, your criminal history, or employment history. And that's, again, on the application. During the elevator speech, that's when I want to know who you are today. What are you doing with yourself today? And during one of the several interview processes is where you're saying, what can you bring to the table in the future? What can you bring to the company in the future? And trust becomes established by these processes. And they're looking for you to be honest about the things that you disclose, past, present, and future, in order to ascertain as to whether you are an adequate or productive fit for the company. And then the hiring staff is able to weigh the past, present, and future separate from the applicant, meaning not in the presence of the applicant. They will release the applicant and say, we will be in touch with you once we review all of the information that you have submitted to us. And if they decide to go with that applicant, it is again based on the past, present, and future and all of the things that were disclosed. And so if they go forward or move forward, it is basically exemplifying that they trust what you had to say, that they have properly vetted the applicant and said and made the decision that we will proceed and establish this relationship with this individual based on all of the disclosures. And they will proceed not holding essentially anything against that applicant that was disclosed in the application, the interview process, orientation process alike. We'll proceed with that. As long as you disclosed everything to us and gave us a fair opportunity to assess and evaluate those circumstances and situations that you disclose, honestly, we're going to give you the opportunity. We're going to trust you. Now, the caveat is if the applicant has not disclosed and the details that help the interviewer with the decision making as far as your employment, and it is later found that they have obstructed and obfuscated facts necessary to make an informed decision about your employment with that company, then the applicant may become disqualified and be seen as less than integral or dishonest in their disclosures, and then be disqualified from the opportunity of employment. It should be noted that there are certain times at which certain disclosures are to be made. Not everything is needed to be known at one's specific time, but as the employment eligibility determination is being made and considered, there becomes a graduating expectation that more disclosures are made. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the elevator speech. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the application process per se. But at some point in time or at various points in time, there will be more of an expectation of greater disclosure. And so it is, again, very important that a trust is established for eligibility consideration for employment. And so you don't want to, again, be perceived as a liar or deceptive during this process. So in relationships, it's okay that you don't disclose everything all at one time. Obviously, you want the person to know you in the best light, or else you might disqualify yourself straight away. But obviously, there should, as the relationship progresses, there should be greater disclosure, as there will be a greater expectation of honesty. And this is how trust is established. Relationships are established. And again, that must not be fractured, especially early on in the building of the relationship. Everybody's going to put their best foot forward in the beginning, right? We know this, and you should. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not being dishonest. It's finding your way in right away. And the problem with especially Western relationships and the establishments thereof, nobody told us that or warned us that this is how relationships come about, and that everybody's going to put their best foot forward. And it's not necessarily to lie, it's not to be deceitful, it's to essentially find a way in. We all have skeletons in the closet. That's another thing that we all need to realize. And we should realize that when you first meet somebody, they're not telling you everything about themselves, and they're trying to determine and ascertain as to whether there is something greater that they want from the involvement with another person. That's the truth about it. And so we should be told that in the beginning, that expect that in relationship establishment and building, that not everything is being told. We're going to put our best foot forward, and we're going to paint ourselves in the best light so that we can attract people. You don't attract people with your skeletons in your closet. You attract people with who you are today and what you are growing in today. Remember the employment application scenario where you are interviewing, you're painting yourself in the best light, and then there comes a point during the application where you must divulge, some of the skeletons in your closet, and those usually go back 3 to 5 years. And we don't need to go back much further than that unless there are particular things that pertain to the eligibility for a particular job. I mean, if you have bank robbery in your past history, then you probably will be disqualified from working in a bank. They have the right to protect their interest as a bank, as a financial institution. It would be unscrupulous of them to hire people that have bank robbery, larceny, money laundering, or anything like that in their background to protect the public. So the takeaway is that sooner or later those skeletons are going to come out, and you're going to have the opportunity to judge as to whether those particular skeletons align with you or they do not align with you. That is an honest discovery, and we each get the opportunity to make that determination as to whether it's a disqualifying situation or not. So we should not be surprised that there are other things that come out. That's not the problem. The problem is as to whether, again, you can deal with those situations or not, that you discover about the other person. And again, honesty is key to establish trust. If it's not there, that fractures that pillar once again, and the whole thing will eventually come crumbling down. But we look for people to go through that process, that application process for eligibility for a relationship, just like we do for employment. And we got to realize that that's going to happen. That's going to be there. That should be there. That's should be a natural part of the process of establishing relations with an individual. And you have to be true to yourself as to whether you're going to put up with certain situations and scenarios. And that's to each their own, right? What one person can put up with, the other one might not, another one might not be able to put up with. And so with that being said, it's important that we realize that there is a process and a procedure to establishing relationships, just like with anything else, employment, applications, or whatever. And so we should put, this is the way that I contend will either make or break a relationship. And to thine own self be true. And there should be a consideration of the past, present, and the future. And you should be honest in your observation and evaluation of the individual and what they have submitted to you for eligibility consideration. And that's it, and that's all. That is the make or break of relationships. If we started off that way, when you meet them, you want to know the present. What are you like today? And that's where we're putting our best foot forward. This is who we've become through all of the experiences, all of the negative and positive experiences that we have had and experienced ourselves. That's who we are today. And then there should be the consideration of who do you aspire to be, what do you aspire to be in the coming future. That is the future consideration, okay? And the totality of the past and the future experiences and situations establish who that person is right now. And that's who you see before you. That's who you either like or dislike. That determines a second or third or fourth date. And so that is a natural process. That's the way it should be. And then lastly, there's the consideration of the past. And there should be an honest disclosure of situations going back perhaps 2, 3, maybe 5 years. making it fair and making it equitable. Because again, we all have skeletons in our closet. None of us are perfect, and we all look for an opportunity to move beyond the mistakes and bad decisions that we made in the past. So therefore, we have to allot and allow for humans to be humans, fallible humans. None of us are perfect, and so when we're considering the past, what we should be looking for is an objective truth and honesty and disclosure. And if they are willing to do that, that says a lot about their credibility. It says a lot about the person that they are in alignment with the present and future aspirations, goals that that person has. Um, Honesty is everything. It, again, is the establishment. It is the foundation, and you do not want to fracture that. And um, in that past consideration should be fair, should be limited. You don't hopefully need to go into somebody's 20-year history, but at least the last 3 to 5 years. And then what you're going to do is take all of that and evaluate using the past, present, and the future to make a final judgment as to whether will be productive, gainful to you, and ultimately a positive decision. And again, we weren't taught, these ways, processing and evaluating things this way, but yet it's funny that we all are subject to it, especially when applying for jobs or programs or whatever. And it works there, so why wouldn't we think that it would work in your personal relationships? All right, with that being said, 16 minutes, 41 seconds. Hopefully this is something that you will consider, chew on, and it will hopefully lead to successful relationships in the future. All right, and now you've been made free. The question is, what are you going to do with it? We'll talk to you next time right here. Think on these things.